Broncos country, we are live. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. As you can see, got the setup improving here with my Buffs and Broncos stuff. Photo of Mile High Stadium. Got some Peyton Manning stuff. Thought I'd throw on the Peyton Manning jersey. Shout out to everybody who has subscribed for my first season covering the Broncos here on my YouTube channel. I greatly appreciate you guys. Audric Estime. Let's lean into that piece of news first. So he did suffer an ankle injury. This is a huge bummer because what happened in the offseason after we drafted him, he had a little bit of a knee procedure, and now he's going on short-term IR, I believe, expected to return here as soon as week 6, but that's going to free up some roster space. Michael Burton, somebody who was activated off the practice squad, makes sense for him to be elevated to that 53 right now. That was something that I was expecting of him being one of those first guys to be elevated, maybe him or Will Jordan Humphrey, but it's going to be Michael Burton, which means Blake Watson is going to get an opportunity to carve out a nice role for himself, being the third running back here on the roster right now, and that's it. There's nobody behind him. So we're going to have Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, who actually led the Broncos in carries, beat out Javonte by 1, and then Blake Watson. And I really like this move or this opportunity that Blake Watson has for himself because, again, starting at Old Dominion as a wide receiver, he has that skill set. He's got the skill set to be a threat on third down, to be a threat out of the backfield. I think he needs more reps, of course, from running back, but we've seen that all Memphis guys coming out here normally do have some level of success in the NFL. We can talk about Tony Pollard, Antonio Gibson, Kenneth Gainwell. All these guys went through Memphis. They were kind of hybrid wide receiver running backs used in a bunch of different ways. I'm anxious to see if Sean Payton is going to use Blake Watson in a variety of different roles as the year progresses. Not expecting him to have a big role against Pittsburgh, but maybe he gets a few snaps and an opportunity. I would love to see Blake Watson carve out a larger opportunity for himself. But want to give a shout out here to Alberto. Thank you so much. What's up, David? Hope all is well with you and your family. It was fantastic visiting family this past weekend, and my grandpa turned 99. So that was really cool to see. He's 1 year away from 100. So hopefully he's able to get there. It was a great weekend, despite the Broncos taking the L. Thank you for asking. Thought I'd throw on the Peyton Manning jersey. I know it's been a little while since I've done that, but there's some other pieces of news that I did want to hit on. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And of course, if you guys got any questions, throw them here in the live. I will take any questions or comments that you guys have. I won't be on here too long because I got another Buff show here at the top of the hour, but let me go ahead and share my screen. I wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to be doing a Riley Moss film review. I think that all 22 has been published now. And before we get into the offensive line and different things like that, I did want to share this. I'm not going to play it. Go to Andrew Mason's Twitter if you want to see it, but in full. But I thought that this was a really interesting clip. If you take a look at, well, sorry, I hit the wrong thing. So I'll stick on the offensive line, and then I'll get to Riley Moss. But Andrew Mason interviewed Quinn Miners today. Of course, he had a little bit of a press conference talking to the greater media, but I believe he was the worst graded Denver Broncos offensive lineman against Seattle, which was just a little bit disappointing, right? Being the highest paid guard in the NFL or one of the highest paid guards in the NFL. You never want to see that, right? So a little bit of a bummer to see that. And in this interview, Quinn Miners is basically saying, yeah, quote, I wasn't doing the techniques that I've been coached to do all training camp. Just kind of wasn't keeping my feet underneath myself, wasn't using my hands like I normally do. And so it was good to have that feedback of knowing that the technique that I do during practice is more than good enough for a game. I got to trust that. And he's absolutely right. It's more than good enough. There's a reason why he's one of the highest paid guards in the NFL, right? It's because his technique is good. And I think it just goes to show how much even I underestimated that environment going into Seattle, how it can just knock even some of our best players off of their game. And again, credit to Seattle, credit to their crowd. They were a very well coached football team and surprised me even with the coaching changes. But let's go ahead and take a look at the offensive line grades here. Let's see. Let's just look at blocking in general, and then we can kind of get into it. So, get overall, I guess, on offense. Yeah, if you want to look, Quinn Miners is right down here at number 17, just ahead of Will Jordan Humphrey when it comes to just total offensive grades. Allowed 3 quarterback hits, 3 pressures. That is not Quinn Miners. And my expectation is that we're going to see a better performance from the offensive line this week at home, though it is against the Steelers. So we still have our work cut out for us. Very good defense. Some other notables. Garrett Bowles, another high-paid guy on this offensive line. 5 hurries, 5 pressures. Not great. Now, he's going to be possibly out for a little bit. I don't know if he has practiced yet, but thankfully, just dealing with some sort of bruise on the ankle, I believe is what Sean Payton said. That is a relief. Luke Wattenberg, 55 grade overall, 1 hit, 1 hurry, 2 pressures, 1 penalty. Ben Powers, 4 pressures, 3 hurries, 1 hit. And then lastly, well, I guess we can look at the other 2 guys. Matt Pert, who actually looked okay. And I think these grades kind of back it up. 1 hurry, 1 pressure, 15 snaps. That's it, though. Smaller sample size. And then Mike McGlinchey, 3 hurries, 3 pressures. But, hey, at least no penalties. If we're looking at the pass blocking here, again, Quinn Miners, Garrett Bowles, you can't have those guys as your worst rated pass blockers on the left side of the offensive line. That just can't be acceptable. That's got to get fixed. And I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to see a better performance out of the offensive line this week against Pittsburgh. I think we will. In terms of the run blocking, let's look here as well. Luke Wattenberg, top graded offensive lineman here. But again, a 60 grade is not great. We should be doing better than this. And so I would say nobody really played well on the offensive line at all last week against Seattle. And while I don't like Sean Payton kind of abandoning that run game rather quickly in retrospect, you can kind of understand it with how bad the performance was. But you just don't want to set Bo Nix up to have 42 passes every game right now in his rookie year. No way. I don't want to see that. I don't think that's best for his development. So let's run the ball. Let's see these guys get in a rhythm. I mean, this is so unlike Quinn Miners. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like one of the worst rated games of his career when it comes to his run blocking. 38.5, that's terrible. Garrett Bowles at 50, just bad. We've seen better performances out of this offensive line, and that's why I think we're going to see it better as the year goes on. Again, I feel like Sean Payton teams, they get better throughout the regular season. We at least know our baseline. I think we still have a bright future this season. You're not going to see any panic from me right now early on 1 week through the season. But I thought that was pretty interesting to take a look at. And I will get to some of the Riley Moss stuff. Again, I'm going to be doing a film room on Riley Moss. But let me go ahead and take a look at my bookmarks here. I really love the fact that we had some guys come out here that know tons more football than I do. If you guys aren't following them, please be sure to do it. But Cody Rourke, he's been a voice in the Broncos community for a really long time. Really solid analyst. Love the stuff that he does. And also just a good Broncos fan. And then we also had Carter Dillon from Let's Talk Broncos. He also talked about how he thought Riley Moss played well. And credit to Marquee Sports and Jeremy, both talking about how they thought Riley Moss had a pretty decent game. And this is what I'll read what Cody Rourke says and then I'll get into it. Disliked a lot of the discourse I saw in the app about Riley Moss. He had good coverage consistently, was on the receiving end of the Lockett Geno, making some tough plays. And that's mainly what I saw as well. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing the right screen. That's mainly what I saw as well. Cody Rourke right here talking about this. And again, when you look at the weapons the Seattle Seahawks had, You had DK Metcalf, who Pat Surtain was just going to be on. Okay. Then you had Jackson Smith and Jigba, JSN. And then you had Tyler Lockett. You were going to put either Jaquan McMillan on one of those guys. It was just kind of hard to counter because we know that Riley Moss, he's not best suited to go up against those really quick twitch guys like Tyler Lockett. Or, JSN is still very quick twitchy, in my opinion, as well. So it was going to be a tough matchup for him. We saw, again, when we played the Colts, he matched up really well on Michael Pittman, their best wide receiver, who is more of kind of that stockier, traditional NFL size number one wide receiver, but he's not like this quick twitch guy. He's a strength guy. And Riley Moss, I think, showed a lot of strength, but it's tough to counter when you got to cover all three of those receivers consistently. And credit to the Seahawks for exploiting this matchup. We didn't really have an answer, but to come out and say that he's a bust, again, I understand Broncos country being reactionary after a loss, but when you go back and look at it, like, this was nowhere near as bad a play as what we've seen from like last year from Damari Mathis. And he was in coverage a lot of the good times, but Tyler Lockett is a very good wide receiver. And he also made some amazing one-handed catches and different things like that, Tyler Lockett just won the matchup. So was Riley Moss amazing on Sunday? No. But was he bad? No, I didn't think he was bad. And I'm going to do a all 22 coaches film review of him. I was waiting for that to pop up yesterday, but it didn't. I assume it's on NFL Plus or my drive now. So I'll get to that later tonight. But I just wanted to talk about that as well. I thought that Riley Moss in his first game starting, he had an up and down day, but he showed some things that you really wanted to see. He was very good in the run game. I thought he showed some good open field tackling. But yes, Riley Moss isn't ever going to be a guy that owns those quick twitch type of wide receivers. It was a rough matchup for him. And would you rather have seen Levi Wallace on him maybe? I can understand if you want that, but personally, I'd rather go with the cornerback, at least with the longer size. So with that being said, I'll get to some of your comments. And again, sorry I didn't do a video yesterday. Still getting kind of settled in with all the travel and moving, everything like that. Mark from Georgia, thank you so much for tuning in. My question is, David, is what these new schemes that Sean Payton is supposed to have up? What are these new schemes that Sean Payton's supposed to have up for his sleeve for Bo Nix in the offense? And I don't really think it's really anything groundbreaking or anything like that. But I think in some of the preseason, like, what did we see? We saw some plays in which Bo Nix is using his legs a little bit more as a threat. You see some rollouts, you see I believe we saw some breed option with him, some RPOs, and I think somebody brought this up on Twitter the other day, how Bo Nix was the fastest guy on the field that wasn't a wide receiver week one. Pretty interesting, right? Got up to 20 miles an hour over that during his long scramble. I would like to see him being a little bit more used as a threat. Now, Mark, another thing that we couldn't do at Seattle because we were just the operation of getting the play call and then getting to the line to snap the ball, it was just slow. It wasn't Nathaniel Hackett slow, but it was pretty close. If you noticed, a lot of the times, we're getting to the line with like 7 seconds. A lot of where Bo Nix was able to have success that we saw during the preseason, of course, during his time in Oregon, was the use of pre-snap motion. Sometimes Sean Payton's going to give Bo Nix 2 play calls, and he's going to try and get to the line, and then based off of what types of looks he's getting from the defense, go with that first play or check into that second play that Sean Payton has given him. We weren't able to do any of that in Seattle because of how long the operation was taking. And so because of that, Denver was more often than not, my belief, in a play that wasn't the most advantageous play for that particular look. We weren't able to run guys in motion, really. We didn't really have time. Bo Nix didn't have the time to check. Those are things that I'm expecting more. Being at home, obviously, we're going to be a benefit to that. It's a very hard situation to be doing that on the road for the first time in Seattle. That's why Seattle is one of the toughest places to play in. I overlooked that a little bit, obviously, in my prediction, but I think that is some of the stuff that we were hoping to see against Seattle that we really just didn't. And I think also just a little bit more patience with developing the run game. When things are a little closer, like they were throughout that first half and into the second half, uh, there were still drives, I believe, in the first half, which we were still just, I think it might have been the second drive. There's no need to have three straight passes, you know? So I feel like it was a combination of things. I do think Sean Payton did get away from the run game a little bit earlier than you'd like to see. So, especially with a rookie quarterback. So, hopefully that answers your question. Basically, I would just like to see more pre-snap motion and Bo Nix checking into the right play at the line, which is what we saw more so during preseason. So, I think we'll see more of that against Pittsburgh. Cecil and Mace pointed it out, but couldn't talk about it. And they said, "Wow." In terms of the play calling, hopefully, I explained a little bit of what I was thinking there. Alberto, David, the Broncos as a whole need to get their shit together and perform. What happened last week? Starting from the OC, shitty play calls, wide receivers dropping balls, and no separation after the catch. Yeah, this was not nearly as well as we've seen the Broncos even play in some of our games last year. Like, no doubt about it. You want to see this team get off to a faster start. Interesting. I saw this on Twitter that Devon Vele had the most separation, most yards of separation on average out of all of our wide receivers on Sunday. So that's a good note for him. Concerning for the other group. You also, going back to your comment, Mark, you would have loved to see Marvin Mims or some speed involved in this offensive scheming, right? Putting the ball into the playmaker's hands. I think, again, Bo Nix, he kept most of his throws in between the 0 to 10-yard range. And Seattle just did a really good job of open field tackling. They allowed no yak. Absolutely no yak. And that's part of what is going to help Bo Nix be successful, is getting the ball into our playmakers' hands. But we have to use speed. We have to use speed. Will Jordan Humphrey, if he's not helping in the run game, he's kind of useless out there. When we're running play action, we talked about this on Monday, kind of useless if you're not having an effective run game to be doing play action. I think it all starts with the run game. We have to have a better performance out of our offensive line. I think that's where the core of this starts from. And I think we're going to get a better offensive line performance because we have seen better. We've seen better with these guys. Yeah. And that's the thing. Now, I'm not jumping off a ledge yet. A little bit different than what you saw with my Buff stream this afternoon, if you're a Buffs fan. But week one, we have seen Sean Payton teams get better over time. I think we're going to find the right mix of what's working well for us. And I think we're going to see, again, Bo Nix do much better. I haven't really paid much attention to what Washington or Chicago fans are saying right now, but that Chicago won, you could say, in spite of their offense against, who are they playing? I just blanked, but Caleb Williams threw for 98 yards on like 50% completion. So something like that, right? So none of the rookie quarterbacks had a good matchup or a good performance. I think we are going to see better performances from this rookie class as time goes on. I think Caleb Williams is going to end up being a very good quarterback. I do have confidence in Jaden Daniels because I think he's a good fit with Cliff Kingsbury. And I do have good feelings about Bo Nix, obviously. We'll see what happens with J.J. McCarthy next year. That remains to be seen. And I can't wait to see what Michael Penix does in Atlanta, but that seems to be a little bit far away. But, we played pretty well on defense, I thought. They really did play their hearts out. Again, I think where you saw them falter was once Cody Barton got out, and then the 3 and outs, the short drives really started stacking up in the second half. But They did everything they should have been doing in the first half. Like, we should have been able to go into halftime with a lead. And I do think we're going to get our act together then, this next week against Pittsburgh. This is a wonderful opportunity. It's a shame. It's a damn shame that we're not playing Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson, man, come on, man. Got to be healthy for this. But yeah, like, we got to see us go out and beat a Pittsburgh team. That was a team that eked into the playoffs last year. I think we're a better team. I believe we're a better team. This is a team at home where we should handle business. Now, it's not going to be easy. I'm not saying it's a blowout. I'm saying handle business in terms of getting a really hard-fought win. We're going to have to be disciplined because Justin Fields is going to run around. But thankfully, they're still without Roman Wilson. We can put Patrick Surtain on George Pickens, and we can figure out the rest. Thankfully, they have a suspect offensive line. I think our defensive line is going to show the improvement that they are against Pittsburgh. And I think we're going to get this win. Now, it's going to be very important for us to get out to a lead. Let's put Justin Fields in some situations and Mike Tomlin in some situations where they have to rely on Justin Fields more than the run game, right? So very excited for week 2, but I don't know if I'm making excuses. I'm just trying to make sense of, like, why weren't we playing up to standard? I can understand that from Bo Nix's perspective. For me, I just think the offensive line just did not play well. They just didn't play well, and I think they're going to get it right. Directly, this is a really great question here, and then I gotta head out, guys. Not sure if this was already mentioned, but with Vele and Reynolds hurt, do you believe we will see Troy Franklin already? Obviously, we would hope to see more Mims, like Peyton said. Yeah, Mims is the guy we traded up. Why the hell aren't we seeing more of him? This should be a game in which we use him more. We need speed. We need speed on this team. We need it to help open up opportunity for the rest of the guys, right? Especially guys that aren't elite separators like Cortland Sutton, okay? Or Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds, man. Hopefully you get those drops out early and they're gone. This was an issue with him being signed that some Broncos fans brought up, that especially in that playoff game against Detroit, he had just some killer drops. That might just be something that we have to live with, but hopefully we can integrate some more weapons on offense that can kind of take some of that pressure off or just kind of spread things out a little bit more. Mims and Franklin, I would like to see more. I would like to see more Franklin. He's got that rapport with Bo Nix. I thought we saw some nice improvement through him in the preseason. Now, I don't know if you can think that he's going to be a plus blocker out there in the run game just yet, right? But we're talking about giving Bo some easy stuff like pre-snap, some jet sweeps, building some RPOs off of that, building some run plays off of those things. Troy Franklin's a guy you can do that with. And I would like to see him be involved, or Marvin Mims be involved in that same way, in that same fashion, no doubt. But Douglas Wall, this was another great point. Wide receivers and running backs need to lube up the top of their shoes. There are too many shoelace tackles. Yes. And I felt like Javonte might have had like the wrong cleats there, man. He was slipping. He might have had a touchdown run, man, in one of those first drives in the first half. We'll see what happens when I check out the replay, but I go watch all this stuff with Riley Moss. But we had guys falling down. It was a lackluster performance. You'd like to see a stronger coming out the gate, especially when we were playing our starters for multiple drives and sometimes a full half, right? Throughout preseason, you want to see that, but I'm confident we're going to see something better this week. And then Saya, Jade, hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you so much. Did I hear something about Estime on IR? Yeah, he's got some sort of ankle injury. Short-term IR, I believe, is the expectation. Could come back as soon as week 6. So, this is a great opportunity for Blake Watson. I think he's a dynamic athlete. Kind of was wondering if we'd see Tyler Beatty also elevated to the roster. He was somebody that surprised me. and maybe he still might be elevated from the practice squad on one of these game days. We'll just have to see. But this is a great opportunity for him. I think he can develop into a very good third down back for us. So, yeah. So, guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys sticking with me. Again, my expectation or my hope is to be doing videos every day. I'm sorry that I haven't been doing that, but getting more settled in. No more travel going on. Might be at a different family member's house here in San Antonio post game, but I might make it back here for Sunday. So, I on another note, I think I might. I know there's a Broncos bar kind of near me here in San Antonio, so maybe I might like try and do a show out there, or something like that, like post game. I think that would be kind of cool. But guys, thank you so much. Please be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't yet. And again, I'm going to be doing this all 22 on Riley Moss, not to prove that I'm right or anything like that, but just to put the tape on there for you guys to make that decision. But overall, I thought that watching the game, I thought he had good coverage more times than not. Don't misconstrue that as me saying he was perfect or elite or anything like that. But I think there's still a lot to be encouraged from with his performance. So, oh, gotcha, Alberto. You're doing great, David. I meant us fans, not as a whole. Yeah, there's a lot of reactionary fans in Denver. Totally, man. But yeah, we can see that sometimes. But this is going to be a good year for us, man. And I got to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for everything. I'll be back to talk Broncos tomorrow. We'll go through some film and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Go Broncos, y'all.